world of true crime. From cold cases to serial killers, missing persons, and more.
100% he did this.
I'd go off into fantasy world.
How much more lucky can you get that you're not on death row?
You want to know what we know.
My name is Jay. This is Guilty of Crime.
Hello, everybody. It's Jay with Guilty of Crime, and happy Easter. So, I was trying to get my headphones ready, and yeah, that was a couple minutes late. Not too bad, right? Happy Easter. And yeah, I see everybody in the comments. Thank you for being here today. Janine, Saren, you're a new subscriber. I'm going to shout out to you. The reason I'm doing this today, and I'm trying to get this right. Of course, it's Easter comes, and I just want to make sure I came on for you all today. Thank you so much. I wanted to say thank you all, everybody joining today. Over the weekend, we had a very beautiful, overwhelming response, and the channel was monetized. So we can now have the crime crew and the stickers and super chats. Thank you, Jackie Oliver, Carly Armstrong, everybody that's here today. We have the badges, we have all the official YouTube things that we need. So on Easter today, I wanted to come and thank every single one of you and let you know what the community is about. I also want to answer your questions because that's important. I have 300 questions on one video from the last video, and I'm just looking at my phone, and there was literally 300 questions about the Jen Soto case. And I was trying to answer them one by one, and I realized my hand hurt, and it would be easier just to talk to you all and answer questions here and go through some things. Just a couple quick clips, because it's my channel and I want to talk to you all and I want to answer your questions. So if you have questions right now, put QQQ and then answer the question. We're talking about Jen Soto today. I'll do an introduction on it. Oh my God, you guys are amazing. Thank you so much, Crime Crew, for this. We've got the stickers. I've got so many people here and just an overwhelming response to this. Now, I want to tell you, with this new community comes responsibility, and it also comes me being committed to you to bring you content, and I'm committed to bring content. But I want you to know the community is going to be the community that I've created that is loving and kind to each other, and that you respectfully can disagree and will agree to disagree. And I can have other people have different sides of things. But what I won't tolerate, and I did get a few comments, and I will never address this again, I won't tolerate people saying mean things to me for no reason. So I did have some comments when I was thanking people and so forth, and it was just like, barf emojis and, people saying things about me personally, my appearance. If you have something that you want me to fix on my content, let me know, or change, or you have suggestions. I'm open to suggestions, Crime Crew. Mary, Cecina, I see you. I love you and every one of you. And I want to create the content that you want to see. And I want to answer the questions that you have. There were so many questions, everybody, about all this going on. And yes, happy Easter. We're here for a positive, good experience in this community, and we won't tolerate bullying, but we're also not going to put our energy into it. So guess what? If you have something bad to say, I'm just going to ignore you, and then we'll delete you later on. So that being said, I really wanted to thank every single one of you, the day one crew. I'm going to get some merch up soon. And the people that are in the day one, like the day one, I'm going to get some Guilty of Crime black hoodies that like you could just be cool and walk around. People are like, "What? You're guilty of crime?" No, you're the guilty of crime crew, everybody. So we're gonna do some cool stuff for everybody. I appreciate you so much for helping me to get to that level. And on to the Jen Soto case, everybody. So I was listening to Off the Cuff this morning, and there's so much to say about it. But I want to play this little quick intro that and I'll speed it up. He's cool. He's a little slow, but I want you to see the other side of things, and then I'll come back and answer questions that I saw online. And if you have questions, please drop them in. I'm going to address you directly, and we're going to go from there. I want to give you the show that you want, and I want to make the show so that you can interact with me, because there's nothing more frustrated than not being heard, and I want you all to be heard. So I'm going to show this so we can see could be two sides to things, and then we'll get into questions. I'll look some up while I'm going, and I have some stories to tell you about the Jen Soto case. All right, so let's get this one going, and then we will again put myself aside here per usual. Got to do that for everybody. And let's listen to this guy. He's either retired, but either way, he's a detective. He knows his stuff. All right. So let's listen to this for a few minutes, and then I'll be ready for questions.
Any video from that area. Teresa Dill, so many investigative steps that the Kissimmee police have taken, we're not privy to. We know that they conducted a search warrant on Jennifer Soto's home. We know without a doubt they've conducted a search warrant on Stefan Stearns' car. We know, of course, they processed the crime scene. We know, of course, there was an autopsy on Madeline Soto. We know that we're waiting for toxicology. So all of those steps, yes, we know, but we don't know the answers to all of those other investigative steps that no doubt the Kissimmee police have undertaken. I'm trying to see Seth Rogers, only parent that is truly innocent, working books on ground and help. God bless you, Seth Rogers. Okay, I'm not sure who you're speaking to.
Again, I wanted you to hear him for a minute as a retired NYPD. And we have some other footage after if you want to watch it, but I want to interact with you today about this case and the questions you have about Jen Soto, and if she's really in a mental hospital, if she's lawyered up, and what the things are going on. So we're not trying to listen to his questions, but he has something to say, and he's talking about the search that's been done and the autopsy that's been done. Later on, we'll talk about that.
Robert Lavallee, how do the non-guilty family members carry on from this kind of crime to one of their youngest members? Very difficult, Robert Lavallee, just absolutely horrific crime. And, we're talking about, imagine if the possibility exists that Jennifer Soto has no involvement in this, which I find, with my police experience, I find it very difficult to believe that could be the case, because I just think she had to know about this. That's my opinion. Could I be wrong? I've been wrong before, but I think in this case that the lies bother me, the lies bother me. And the fact that she was comforting him during this press conference where he tried to give an Oscar-winning performance, and she was comforting him. It should have been the other way around. He should have been comforting her. Tracy Taylor, how did mom not know he took her body back to the house? What time did he leave again? Because he couldn't leave a body in the car. Tracy, those are the million-dollar questions we do not know the answers to. And I'm amused. Logical deduction. When did the update regarding his phone? They also mentioned that they were sure she was deceased. Sicko head picture. Oh, I already read that. I'm amused.
This is what I'm trying to get across.
There's so many investigative things that the police have conducted that we are not privy to. We do not know the answer to. Janet Coleman, mother called him to give her child a ride to school. Come in, something ain't right. Come on, yes, something's not right. I think I agree with you. I totally agree with you. Agnostic One, someone gave me a website to know how many sex offenders are in my area.
Okay, so you understand what we're doing here. He's answering questions, and I just wanted you to see the other side of what he's saying here, and it all bothers me. I'm going to post things up. I'm going to post your questions. I'm going to talk about the questions that came on. It's only got another minute or so, but he's a retired NYPD. He knows that they've investigated the crime scene. They have the evidence. The autopsy's done, and they're just not telling us that we're missing a bunch of pieces here. And that's why I want to hear from you, because there's about 500 questions in the comments on the other pages, and none of these questions are being, I guess, properly addressed in the way I'd like them to be.
I wish I didn't see it. Yeah, sometimes you know things like this, and knowledge is power, but sometimes it makes you paranoid too, to know all about those things. Lieutenant Peter Pranzo, Harlem Raiders, agree, Bill, just too long, too much. He had to know. Yeah, Lieutenant, you have the police instincts. They never go away, you know. Tattoo Gal, 6 years, mom had no idea. Never caught in bedroom creeping ever. They didn't live in a mansion. Yeah, I find it hard to believe. Natty Lady, my daughter turns 13 in a week or so. I can't even imagine losing our family being the reason behind.
All right, Mr. Off the Cuff, you're great, but we're gonna have to stop sharing you. I have some other things to share later with you. However, right now we're gonna talk about, and hopefully I can get some questions in here. Otherwise, I'm going to my videos where there are lots of questions and lots of information. So what I did want to come tell you, first of all, is again, thank you for everything that you've all done so far. See, Jennifer Kirklisker, however you say that. I'm sorry, Jennifer. We'll call you Jennifer K. Guilty Mom. And I'm with you there. I'm totally with you. But there's so many questions about the hours and the time that it happened from, let's say we were thinking even midnight, 11:49, when we saw Stephen Stearns on that telegraph. I'm sorry, whatever the name of that app is, Telegraph. When we saw him on the app at 11:49, was she already dead? Was Jennifer Soto sleeping? And why did Jennifer Soto say that she saw her at 8 a.m. and yeah, she ate breakfast and she was wearing these certain clothes that she didn't actually see her wear? So, yeah, what is up with that? I think a lot of you agree, and I keep showing you people after people that are in the police department. Now, this guy from Off the Cuff, he is saying he loves Vinnie Politan too, but Vinnie Politan is not an NYPD gritty officer. Okay, he's a news reporter and he's a great one, and now he's a YouTuber, but he's not an NYPD or ex-NYPD, and so he doesn't understand all the things going on, and a lot of stuff that gets reported is speculation. So I'm going to tell you one of the number one questions everybody's asking me. Was the birthday party really at Jen Soto's mom's house, or was it at Stephen Stearns? Does anybody actually know that question? And Telegram, thank you. Does anyone know that question? Does anyone know if it was at the party? The party was at Jen's mom's, or was it at Stephen Stearns' mom's? Okay. Now, yes, the autopsy is 100% done. And the reason I'm not answering that question is because we don't exactly know. But I'm going to speculate on this. And the reason I'm speculating is because when I go back and I see all the things, I read between the lines, I talk, well, yeah, I'm talking back and forth in the community, and the way the mom made it sound in her Spanish interview that you only saw parts of it with me, that it was at her house and Stephen Stearns was there, her friends were there, and the police are talking to all of the adults, all of the kids, and Stephen Stearns stopped talking. So Jen Soto's mom, I'm sorry, not her mom, Jen Soto, Madeline's mom, cannot be accounted for from after the party until the morning time. And then she goes to pick up her daughter and she's missing, and we all think she's full of shit, right? So there's a bunch of stuff that we're going to ask today. Now, yes, the autopsy's done, but they're still waiting on toxicology. So did she get strangled actually? Was it asphyxia, or did she actually get drugged and maybe she OD'd? I'm hearing all kinds of things from the community. And as a matter of fact, one of the community members, if I can tell you this, one of the community members went all the way to help me out. And they went and they called the police department where all of this is happening to find out about Jen Soto and if she was actually in a mental ward or not and get more information so we could find out. And guess what they told her? We can't tell you. You're not privy to that information. You have to wait until things get released, is what they said. So I have another thing to tell you. And if I can confirm it, I will. What I'm thinking and what I've heard is that she checked herself into a mental hospital and then lawyered up. But right now she's out and she's staying at a cousin's house. We've seen the car, we've seen her car in their driveway. Now I have to verify that it's her car in the cousin's driveway, but that she's changed her name on social media and now she's taking it down. She's lawyered up. She's not really working with the police, but she's not working against them necessarily. She's just not talking right now. So Janine Sarin says we lived in a small house, and the person who said we waited till my parents were busy in the basement so they never saw anything. Agreed. I agree that could totally happen as well. My opinion stands firm with Jen Soto knew. Jen Soto was involved, and Jen Soto repeated that story on the news. And if you guys want to watch it again, we can watch it all day. I can watch it 3 more times. Jen Soto, when you listen to her and Stephen Stearns, she was looking up and taking from her memory what he told her to say so they can kind of have a similar story of what happened, what she was wearing, what time. But here's the problem. It didn't exactly match up. So what I'm going to tell you, and then if you guys put the QQQs in there, I can see questions because I can't what does this say, to arrest or elaborate on that. Elaborate. I don't know where the party at. No one officially is telling us. Simon K, nobody's telling us, but they are telling us. They're not, but they are. So if you watch all the interviews and you read between the lines and you see what the police are saying and you see the house, it was more than likely at Madeline Soto's grandma's house, the lady that was on the interview doing the Spanish version. So yeah, thank you for saying that. Let's see if we have any other questions. Okay, so what Janine thinks, and that's a great name, by the way. My real name is Janine, everybody. So that's a great name. I think Jen was asleep the whole time and just went with that scumbag, told her. I think she's embarrassed and now horrified and didn't notice because she worked all the time. That's a possibility too. And I'm never going to agree to disagree with you, Janine. So yeah, I don't agree with that. I think that the way she behaved, and the pictures and the access that she had, and the more that the police are honing in, that we're going to find out more real soon. And my overall 1,000-foot theory, like you could see right through my arms. Sorry about that. Look at that. My 1,000-foot theory is that she was involved. She let Stephen Stearns have access to her daughter because she loved him, or she had a sick fantasy of love going on with her. And she, in order to keep him, she kept him happy with her daughter. So she used her daughter as a vessel to keep him happy. And she gave him access. And she ultimately, when her daughter died, she stuck to the story so she can keep her man. Honestly, I know how that sounds, but that's my theory, and I'm going to stick to it because I think there were some twisted things going on in that house that we don't know about, but we will. But the bishop says, wasn't it the grandma's house that grandma said that Stefan was there, but she didn't know why? Thank you, the bishop, for clearing that up. And I'm telling you, I'm pretty sure it was at the grandma's house. She held the party she held the birthday party at her house that day. Mom didn't show up because she had to work. But guess what, everybody? I'm a mom of 2 beautiful children. And when I have to work, I schedule a birthday party on a day that I don't have to work, or I schedule it at a time when I get off. And that's not the only reason I think that her mom's involved. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of reasons why I think that she has something to do with it. So again, put your questions in there. I'm going to talk a little bit about this in case you haven't. I'm just going to catch you up real quick. You're going to hear me talking about it. And if I see QQQs, I'm going to answer the questions. Maybe Carly can help point them out. Otherwise, I'm going to the comments from the other page and I'm going to talk about those. Okay, so before I get into that, I just don't want to believe this beautiful girl's own mother let this monster torture her. I wonder if Madeline told anybody. Janine, I'm going to answer your question right now. She did tell somebody. And we haven't heard that yet. She was telling her friends that something weird was going on. From what I hear, she did tell her friends. They didn't know exactly, and she probably wasn't being graphic like the PCA is, but in my opinion, she did tell her friend. She was hinting at it. I don't think she told the school counselor. Maybe she did tell her mom. And if she did, her mom ignored it, swept it under the rug. Again, that was her vessel to Stefan Stearns all of these years. Yes, I'm Mary Cecina. Stearns had sexual fantasies about little girls, and Jen gave Stearns permission to take advantage of Maddie. Now, again, we're having discussions, everybody. So this is not, we're not detectives. You heard what the detective said. And I'm going to play a clip from that after I say what I need to say so you can hear what Mary's saying and what I'm saying, what everyone else is saying. The information's not out yet, but it's coming real quick. And these are my thoughts on what I think. Even the grandma, something's off with the grandma. She knows more. There's a good possibility. She didn't seem like she was helping. She was covering from a distance, all of this stuff. So let me tell you in the words that I have for you. Okay. So let me just tell you, Madeline Soto's whoever's not on this, she's a 13-year-old girl from Florida. Everybody was worried about her disappearance, except for her mother and Stefan Stearns. Okay. The heart of the mystery at this point is her mother, and people are wondering why Stefan Stearns hasn't been arrested yet. And the reason I believe he hasn't been arrested, and everybody's saying it, is because they haven't got all the T's and crossed the I's. Now, listen to this. The morning Madeline, she turned 13 the morning after, and Jennifer left her daughter with Stefan Stearns. She asked him to drop her off to school. However, when Jen arrived supposedly at 4, her daughter was missing. The search began while Jennifer's behavior became increasingly suspicious, anxious, and she wasn't searching. And she was using very final words here, okay? She was using finality of the situation. Like, I guess we can just give up now. Now, I'm talking in my own words because we've seen this from these other people that you know so well and validate. The interview she provided various accounts what transpired that morning. She claimed that Stefan drove Madeline to school, and she insisted that he dropped her alone, that she wasn't with him. But she also didn't say that he went to. She kind of changed her story about dropping. She remembered and then changed that he dropped her off at the church that was nearby. Her demeanor, it all struck us as odd. And she wasn't out there searching. Now, the accusations, as the investigation unfolded, us public turned towards her because, well, we saw her comforting Stefan Soto. He was crying more than she was. Why did she ignore the warning signs? That's the most disturbing part, is that she wasn't actively searching for her missing daughter. Commenters expressed the outrage, questioning her actions, and one user wrote, "You're staying at home and waiting by the phone? Don't you have a cell phone? That's completely unacceptable." So, everybody, I mean, do you see what I'm saying here? I'm agreeing with somebody, and I'm agreeing with a lot of people. I think Jen was in competition with Maddie and resented her. And when that happened, she wanted to cover it up with her boyfriend. She did not want him in trouble. Now, who took her to the birthday party, Carson C? We don't know. There's these questions that we can't have answered right now because guess what? Jen Soto lawyered up and is not talking. But I do believe she will talk, and she will end up flipping on him, and that's that. Now, Julie Lafraine, I love you. You're great. Yes, I'm glad you're watching this. I think she was going to tell. I think she stood up for herself. We're talking about Maddie, and she was building her courage. Her mom had to know. Now, this is a mom of some beautiful girls that we've grown up with. My daughter's grown up with. I know Julie personally, and she loves her children, and she would know. And I take her word that her thoughts are similar to mine. Okay. So I'm going to play a little bit more. I have a different clip that I wanted to play for you because we have a mother talking about it, and it's on the Off the Cuff show. Or off the cuff. I don't want to play this part, but I'm going to share my screen with you, play a little bit so I can get some questions gathered up. And I promise I'll speed it up a little bit more. Actually, this is what I want to do. Put myself aside again. Thank you. And I want you to listen to some of this so you can get some fuel going and think of your questions. Let's see. I'm going to speed him up a little bit because I love this guy, but he talks a little slow. I just want to hear what he has to say, and then we're going to listen back to my opinion, back to your questions, and listen to some like real deep interviews of people that have the experience and they're out on the field and they know what they're talking about. Even though we know what we're talking about, everybody, I know you know what we're talking about.
In the world, has been to over 680 homicide scenes, attended over 5,000 autopsies. And just recently, if you caught it, she's on the Netflix blockbuster hit, I'm told so far. I watched 3 out of the 5 episodes so far. It's called Homicide New York. They can't come up with new names. There was another show, New York Homicide. They're confusing people. But I watched it. It's a lot of
All right,
cases I know.
Yeah. All right, we know.
Enter the off the cuff zone, the police off the cuff zone.
All right, so let's get into.
So let's get to this case, Barbara. And one of the questions that everyone has, of course, is when are they going to pull the trigger on this savage right here, Stefan Stearns? When there was this.
I know you all have questions about this too, and I've seen all the questions about Stefan Stearns and why he's arrested. I actually seen somebody asking if they think that the ball is going to be dropped on this and they're not going to file charges and they're just going to hold them on all those, and Jen's going to get out of it because of her psych ward or her mental ward. I don't think so, everybody. So let's listen to this and I'll comment back and forth, and I'm trying to get your questions, and then we're going to read questions and I'm going to answer you directly. Before we start that, let me answer Nancy Whitmore. Do you know what Jen Soto actual work hours are? No, we don't know her actual work hours. She made it seem, and here's another red flag. She made it seem like she was struggling for money, a single mom, and her work hours were all over the place and she needed to work those extra hours and it had to be on Maddie's birthday. But that's a red flag because her mom has money. Stefan Stearns had money. He was getting possibly even from it. I'm not going to rule out that he was selling photos of kids. We don't know, but we know that his mom was giving him money. They were going on vacations all the time. Did you see how many vacations they were going on with Stefan Stearns, Jen Soto, and Madeline Soto? They were always on the beach, half clothed, everybody. She was not hurting for money, okay? I'll tell you that. So her work hours, I don't know what they are. We'll have to dig deeper. These are all the things that we can't like stalk her. I'd like to stalk her and find out, but I can't. All right, let's listen to this for a bit while I get more questions.
Formal charges that they're holding him in jail right now. 60 counts of, we'll say, SA. But one of the things that everyone, of course, is waiting for, Barbara, and we're shocked because they would never do this in New York City. We believe the murder took place on February 26th. The body was found on March 1st. And they still haven't made an arrest in it because he's not going anywhere. So they have that luxury of, crossing their T's and dotting their I's, which isn't always the luxury you have in this kind of business. But he's not going anywhere. What are your thoughts on that, Barbara?
I think this is, as you said, this is a luxury. They've got him to rights on these other charges, these 60-something essay charges, which are. Let me just say something here. I am so appalled and so sickened by this that I can barely speak about it. But I would do anything for you, Bill. So.
Well, thanks, Barbara.
But I am so sickened and so appalled by the evidence that they've mentioned, and so you have to wonder. Well, he dropped her off at school, supposedly took her to school that morning. She never got there, and then the body is found in a place where he was reportedly fixing a flat tire. So why haven't they made an arrest? Well, I think in this case, the medical examiner has a lot to do with it. As you know, the autopsy findings are going to be a wealth of information.
Okay, now this is what we're going to listen to, and then we're going to jump to more questions. But yes, Jen was jealous of Maddie, and that was in my thoughts. And if you see every picture, the attention is on Maddie, and it's not what they said 2 years. It's been since 2018, and it's 2024. I think Maddie was getting too old. She was getting ready to tell. She liked other boys, and she didn't want this guy doing what he was doing to her. He was doing some nasty stuff to her, everybody. So the Disney income can't afford what they had, but Stephen Stearns had money from his mom, and she was funding him, and he was being funded somehow with all those toys he was buying. But let's listen to this about the autopsy and about what, all the questions, why they're swirling. It's because of this.
Information. For instance, the cause and manner of death. We can probably say homicide with some degree of certainty, and yet people will say things like, well, what if the little girl took drugs and overdosed and someone just took her body there? Or what if the little girl, fell off a roof? I mean, you can go on endlessly in speculation, but the likelihood is that this poor little child was a victim of a homicide. So why haven't they charged him? Well, when the medical examiner does an autopsy, not only do they test for everything, toxicology, tissue testing, everything you can think of, but they have to get past something here, which is pretty awful. And that is the fact that the body was not found between February 27th and March 1st. So that's 4 days of being out in the open in Florida. The weather, there's going to be some degree of decomposition. She was out, I believe, in a field. So there's going to be some evidence of animal
Activity.
Yeah, an insect and animal. So what does that mean? It means we don't have a clear-cut a bruise or a stab wound or a gunshot wound that we can look at. You and I would go in on a case and you see guy's laying in his living room, gunshot wound to the head, stab wound to the heart. But in the case of a decomposed body, we said apparent wounds. We didn't say gunshot wound. We didn't say stab wound. We said apparent, because when a body is in that state, it's very, very difficult to give an accurate answer. And in a case like this, you have this luxury of waiting, and you don't want to slip up in the least little detail. So you can be assured that medical examiner and the police are going to go over every aspect of the exam.
And that is where we are right now. They're going over every aspect. And while we're here and we're speculating, my whole point, and somebody said earlier about the deception detective, I should check it out. Well, guess what? I did an episode with him on the last 2 episodes. So go back there. And he loved it. We got him to those 50,000 likes that he needs for Jen Soto. Now we just need to get him to the 50,000 likes on his video. So if you want to watch that at the end of this, we can watch the Stephen Stearns one again. He shouted back out to me, and he let me post in this forum, and he was very happy about this community right here because you guys flooded him with a bunch of good, positive feedback. So yes, the deception detective, we already played that on the channel. If you go back a couple episodes, you're going to see that. And right now, this lady has no filter. She's telling us how it is with the body and what is happening and what would happen if they need to know exactly, and they don't want to mess it up, because what if they have Jen's hair on her or Jen's fiber? What if Jen did it? What if Jen strangled her, everybody, and Stefan dumped the body for her? We don't know yet. There's no arrest made for that, but they have Jen where they want her, and they have Stefan where they want her. So let's keep listening a little bit more while I'm showing your questions and going to try to answer.
Examination, every bit of the toxicology testing and histology until they have a definitive answer.
Barbara, if you responded to that scene in the situation that you just described, as a medical legal investigator, and I mean, I know what you do because I've been there, but I want you to tell our listeners, what are you going to that scene? First of all, you're going to check that scene out after crime scene has done all their work. They've done their photographs, right? You don't want to.
No, not necessarily. Not necessarily. I don't know if you recall, but I used to bitch about the fact that crime scene would get there, would do their photos, and sometimes they'd move the body. And I'd get there and say, well, look, you've contaminated my examination now. So I built relationships pretty quickly where the guys knew to wait until I got there, because we'd both do our photographs before anything was moved. And then together, we do the body examination. And as I did the exam, I would point out, here's, an abrasion ring from a possible entry wound, and expose it so they could get a good photo there. And then together we do that. So nobody lost any evidence. Nobody lost any chance to observe the body in its original found state. So if I showed up at that scene in Florida, I would fully expect that police would have cordoned off the area, declared the crime scene in as great as an expanse as was needed, and that crime scene would be waiting for me. Or if I got.
I'm going to stop for a second, Simon K, because maybe Jay, but I can't believe she's free if they suspect any danger to the community by her behavior. Now, I want to tell you, she's not free. They know where she is, and she's lawyered up, but she's not going anywhere. Trust me, she's not getting on a plane. And I'm not saying that she killed her or she didn't, or that she was involved on that level, but she has culpability for her daughter being sexually assaulted this whole time for the last 6 years. And even if it was just two, 1 day is too long for me, everybody. So 2 years for a little girl to see what I read in that PCA, what he was doing to her, that is 1 day too long, and 2 years too long, and 6 years too long. If you read that, I had nightmares about that, and I'm in this stuff all the time. So you know what? They know where she is, and trust me, she's not out there doing something right now. And I'm going to address the next thing. Carson C, suppose his mom told him to do it because she was pregnant. I heard she used to cover him up. She absolutely, according to the friends, used to help him cover up, and there's a good possibility. But what happened after the birthday party and between then and 7:30 when he was dumping off the backpack? Answer me that, everybody. What happened? Jen Soto was at the house, whether she was sleeping, she had drugged herself, whatever. She was also at the house the last 6 years, when the little girl said she couldn't sleep alone and she was scared. So where was she then? Maybe she was pregnant. We're gonna find out real soon. Yeah, and she was a baby. Maza, she was a baby. All right, let's keep listening to this. And this is why we don't have all the answers.
There first, I'd wait for crime scene. I wouldn't start messing around with anything. And then together we would do our photos and then work our way inward to the body and to what we could find there. How many times have you been on a scene where people trample in, especially when you're out in the field or out in the dirt? You're going to be looking for footprints, for shell casings, discarded cigarette butts. If everyone's walking in to the body directly, we're going to lose things. So in my view, if that were my case, I'd go in and with Crime Seed, we'd do our photos. Then what are we looking for? We're first assessing the scene. Obviously, we have an outdoors area, a field. We'd want to know the temperature of the days preceding.
And yeah, so this is why, when you hear her on and on and on, it's great. We love you, and I love Police Off the Cuff. These are people that work on the scene. They're very, their passion is within the calmness of them versus me just wanting to get to it. And I understand what she's saying, but that's why it's taking so long. As long as it takes for her to explain what they're doing, it's taken as long for them to do it. So, Christina, who took Maddie to and from the party? What were Jen and Stefan doing between the time they said Maddie got dropped off at the church and the time when Jen went to collect Maddie from school? Absolute good question. Who took Maddie to and from the party? Well, I'm going to use common sense and logic and say that Stefan Stearns probably took her. We know that he was there, more than likely. I'm going to give my 90% opinion that he was there because we saw the pictures in the balloon and we saw all the men there. And I don't know if the grandma confirmed, but she did say she was like, why is he even there? So I'm assuming Stefan Stearns was there. Who else is going to taxi her around to her birthday party and be following her around like a puppy dog with his freaking tongue hanging out, like in every single picture? Every picture he was following that little girl around, and you could always see him walking from behind her. And even in one interview with one of the friends, he said, "Oh, I'm not with Jen anymore. I have a hot little spicy Latina." They were Latin, Hispanic, and I believe he was talking about little Madeline Soto, and she was very little at the time. So, yeah, this is I believe she was getting old enough. Davy Jones, thank you for coming. Old enough to rebel and question adults. She also may have been pregnant. She also may have thought she was in love with him. Everybody, she may have thought she was in love with him, and she didn't want. And her mom were having a rivalry. We're not going to know until Jen talks, and that's why we want her exposed. You guys, girls, everybody, whatever, no gender assigned. I just mean people. Let's expose her. Let's talk about it. Let's answer as many questions as we can. This is great here, Donna. That's right. I wondered what he meant about I have a spicy little Latina. She's Latin. They're Hispanic, Latina. I'm sure now that I've seen the PCA, he was talking about little Maddie. She was the spicy little Latina. She looked a lot older than 13, everybody. Keep that in mind at our birthday party footage that we saw. All right, let's listen a little more of this while I'm dropping, getting questions and comments dropped. I love every one of you. Thank you.
Her, the body being found, we'd want to know the rainfall, because all of those things affect our findings, especially temperature. You know, if it was 3 90-degree days in a row, we know we're going to have a great deal of decomposition. Then we start with the body. We do the overall shots and we start examining, looking for wounds. Now, unfortunately, if you're looking for something like strangulation, you know, there are certain marks we look for, finger marks or a ligature mark. Unfortunately, decomposition changes the color of the skin, can make it dark, make it purple. Now it's difficult to see abrasions, but in the autopsy room, by fine dissection and by tissue histology, looking under a microscope, now we can see, is there bleeding into the outer layers of the skin, indicating a bruise? We can look for the hyoid bone, that little thin wishbone in the neck that is fragile enough that when someone is manually strangled or strangled hard with a ligature, it will often fracture. So after we do the front of the body, we're going to gently.
All right. So she's explaining to us what they're doing with the autopsy, and we're just stopping and then kind of I'm looking at questions. Sadie's mama, Dennis, she was answering someone, said they had video of him leaving the condo with her in the car. Now, I think you're referring to when he took her to school, or I'm not sure if it was when he took her to the party, but if you can clarify that. I think this happened in a panic for sure. He definitely had a flat tire. We saw the flat tire, and everybody's right about that. When you have a flat tire, people remember it. When you see someone on the side of the road with a flat tire, you're going to remember that flat tire and someone changing it. He panicked, and if you know where the body dump site was, no disrespect, it was not even in a bush. It was by a bush real quick, so he can get away from it. So everything was done really sloppy. And when you listen to their interviews, it was also the stories they put together were last minute. She couldn't even answer what her daughter was wearing or what she had for breakfast. All right, let's watch a little more. I'm going to try to get some more questions in here and comments.
We turn her over and now look at the back. We're going to record the clothing. Was it the clothing she left home in, or was it some other clothing? And what's on that clothing? Any stains, any rips, tears, holes? Then we're going to go for the fingernails and take a quick look. Is there anything under the fingernails? Did she fight? Is there any flesh or hair? Because of course we're going to check that for DNA. So we bag the hands carefully with paper bags, not plastic, because plastic bags will keep the moisture in and then there will be further decomposition. So we put paper bags over the hands, tape it at the wrist with evidence tape. Anything we find on the body that might fall off during transit, we'll carefully remove with tweezers and put into small evidence envelopes.
And you hear all of these details right now, everybody. There's so many details. They found her body and she was fully clothed when you saw the leak of that picture. And I don't know if some of you saw it, but she was fully clothed and there's so many fibers they could have found. We don't know if there was blood either. We don't know if there was blunt force trauma to her head or asphyxiation or strangulation. We're not really sure. We don't think it was like a knife, or we didn't hear about a bloody scene. We didn't hear about a gun or anything like that. So it comes to my conclusion that it's either blunt force trauma or some kind of strangulation that happened. Now, Cat Ritter, you say he drove by the school to keep up appearances, and then he drove back to the condo with Maddie's lifeless body. I agree with that, and the cops say that. However, they won't release all the information if it was something else, or we did see it, but we're not exactly. I'm not going to say I'm 100% sure that it wasn't Jen in the front seat buckled in, and maybe Maddie was in the back seat, and they went and dumped her together. I don't know, but we didn't see her, so I'm just speculating on that. Until we know, we don't know. And listen to this lady; she's still going on about how they collect evidence. So it takes a while. So I'm gonna hope for more questions. Uh, Joyce Batista, did Stefan chuck Maddie home from the party? Did he take her? Did Stefan take Maddie home from the party? If he did, then he would have to wait for Jen to get home from work. I wonder what time she got home. Joyce, we wonder all of this too. And I'm going to make assumption. I'll put my neck on the line to make the assumption that Stefan didn't let Maddie out of his sight very often, okay? And all of the pictures that we see, and there was how many photos? Did they say 400 photos they found of all kinds of pedophile material that was too outrageous for me to even say? If he was doing that to her, everybody, then guess what? He took her to the party and he took her home from the party. And Jen got home. We don't know because she's not telling us. She's not trying to help. And when she got home, did she not say, "Happy birthday, baby. I love you"? She didn't tell us about the gifts. She didn't know what she was wearing. She didn't know what she had for breakfast. So all of these things lead me to believe that her mom's involved and she has a mass culpability here. All right, let's listen to some more while I gather questions.
Envelopes, again, paper, no plastic. And so there we go. It's a slow, meticulous process. And at the end of that exam, do I stand up and say, well, this is obviously a homicide and there's every likelihood that she was strangled? Nope. We wait. Now we wait. We wait for the autopsy. We wait for toxicology. We wait for histology. We wait for statements from witnesses and perpetrators. Suppose we made a snap judgment and said, well, this is a homicide and this child was strangled. That's our evidence because we don't see any gunshot wounds and we don't see any knife wounds. Then we get an autopsy and it turns out there's no evidence of strangulation, but there is evidence of chloroform or cyanide or some poisoning.
And I'll take a break there. And she's saying exactly what I did. And I haven't even watched this whole video all the way through. It's just common sense and logic, everybody. So SRK9 mom question. What did she have in the photo of her recovery? And what was it the same as Jennifer said she was wearing? Now, in the photo of the recovery, we only saw like blurs of almost like a blue or jean jacket. It was hard to really tell what she was wearing. I didn't see anything like flowery and I couldn't see her Crocs. So I'm not exactly sure. It wasn't very clear. The picture wasn't terrible, but the officer that leaked it, the sheriff, that was bad. That was real bad to do that. So what she said she was wearing, I don't think exactly matched up, but I don't think she even knew. I think she was being fed a story by Stefan Stearns. And if you guys want, we can watch that video at the end of it again with the deceptive detective for those that missed it. You guys let me know. Otherwise, we can just, we can answer questions and then be done. All right, let's listen a little more what she's saying.
Now, we've already let out this information into the atmosphere. And now when we go to trial, don't you know there's going to be excuse me, Dr. Gary, but some lawyer is going to stand up and say, wait a minute now, didn't your original investigation reveal that this was a strangulation death? Now you're telling us, oh, no, there's this evidence of cyanide in the blood. So that's why we don't make announcements until every bit of evidence is in and we've examined everything we can. But they do have that luxury here. He's not going anywhere.
Right. But Mike, I want you to ask a question because
Okay, I got a question.
else you'll never get in there.
No. This is murder crime scene 101.
Yeah, and this is like me talking when I get on someone's show. I feel bad because I always end up like taking it over, and I don't mean to. It's just I'm so passionate and I have so much to say. So she always had an agenda, and she was always saying something about Maddie and blaming her. She had ADHD. She forgot her phone. She, she was forgetful. She whatever. We can listen to it again if you want, but Ellie reported that the clothing matched what she was found in. There you go. But when she was recalling it from a story, and she kept saying we and they. So that leads me to believe that there was a story that they concocted together about the morning that happened. Or if it wasn't a concocted story, maybe Jen was actually sleeping and Stefan Stearns came home and said, "Hey babe, I dropped off Maddie at school and this is what happened. I dropped her off at the uh I dropped her off at the church. She wanted to walk." And then, and then he filled her in on the blanks later when the cops were asking questions. Either way, she was telling his story or a story. I'll tell you that much. So there was a story being told. And I'm going to take Tanya Kohler. I think he sold her to someone, met them at the church. They did what they did, unalived her, and then Stefan and Jed did the cleanup. Hey, at this point, there's so many possibilities. The sold her part, I'm not sure. There was a lot of fumble ups. I don't even know if he was that smart, but he could have been selling those pictures on his Telegram and app. We don't know because we're not going to be able to find out. There's a whole community of those people, and they pay for pictures like that. And he had been doing it for years. So, yeah, I really, all possibilities. Mind of Monsters, great name. I am local that was boots on the ground when Maddie case broke. I'm an advocate for the missing. Thank you, Mind of Monsters, for being here. And thank you for being a boots on the ground. I would love to. And the more that we get into this channel and the more support I have from you, I'll go out there. I'll fly out there and I'll do it with you and we'll film it. And hopefully Carly can go out there and anybody that wants to join. Carly's helping me mod today. So anyway, let's listen to some more and I'll get more questions.
One for me. I'm just remembering all kinds of stuff from the Bronx and Manhattan. Thank you. This is great. Thank you.
Yeah, I do talk a lot.
No,
Barbara, one of the things, and of course, what you mentioned also is that the science of investigation, that is your part of this. The art of investigation is the detectives. And not that it doesn't cross over, but by art, I mean the police work. The gumshoes, going out there and asking questions, interviewing people. And some of the things that they found out, of course, from digital information.
Listen.
This dirtbag, right, at 7:35 in the morning, as seen by a dumpster in their condo complex, throwing her backpack and her laptop, her school laptop, into the dumpster. That's at 7:35 in the morning. At 8:19, he's seen coming back into the complex with what appears to be her dead body in the car. This is all from video. The police, and this was from a press conference that a Chief Mina said that it appeared that she was dead in the car. Now he goes and takes that 17 or 20 something mile drive to where he dumped her body. So right now, I mean, to me, I already have probable cause to lock him up, right?
Yeah.
And the fact that, they're not saying, well, they slipped a couple of times. They said, oh, the murder investigation. But they're not, the medical examiner is the person that determines it. As you of course know, that when we talk, and I explain this every time, Matt.
And you all want to make sure the medical examiner does the job right the first time, because and I'm not saying that he didn't do it right. We want to make sure it's thorough, and it's going to come out soon, everybody. I don't know if we're going to get it right away because she was a child, but look at what just happened in the Riley Strain case. They got the medical examiner report back, no water in the lungs, and the parents had him do it again, and it came back the same. So they don't want to mess up this case. They want to get everybody that's culpable. This is bad, everybody. Like, I'm having nights where I can't sleep thinking about this and trying to think about what I can do from where I am to get this out there. So it's not something I'm taking lightly.
Manner of death: homicide, suicide, accidental, natural, or undetermined, right? So there's 5 ways. And the medical examiner is the arbiter of that, determines this is a homicide. But John Q. Citizen and John Q. True Crime Watcher, I think everyone knows this is a murder. This is a homicide, and we're just waiting, and impatiently we're waiting. And the next thing is the cause of death. And of course, blunt trauma, gunshot wound, asphyxia, strangulation, poisoning. Could be a drug. They could have forced her to ingest drugs.
Sure.
Or so that's why part B to this is the toxicology, which can take from 6 to 8 weeks to come back. But the autopsy should be done already, obviously. And I think the ME, of course, knows at this point
Yes.
the manner, the manner and the cause of death. But but they're not saying right now.
Yeah.
Honestly, even the police aren't saying, and I'll tell you right now, if you're boots on the ground and you're a police officer and you saw that body, I almost guarantee you they have a really good idea of the manner of death in a nutshell. If they saw marks around her neck, if they saw, her face, the way it, I don't want to get too graphic, but if they saw certain things, they're going to have a good idea, unless it was from some kind of drugging and that actually caused that. He could have been drugging her and it was an accidental death that night. It was her birthday and he gave her a real big birthday surprise, and that could have been an accident. I really think Stephen Stearns was in love with Madeline Soto, and Jen and Madeline were competing. She didn't, no fault to Madeline. She should have never been in that situation, but her mom put her in that situation. I don't care what anybody says.
It's tempting. It's so hard to be patient in a case like this when you're so horrified and angry by the nature of the case. Everything in me would want to just say, just charge him with murder, charge him with everything. Charge him with bank robbery too while you're at it, because this is so sickening.
Yes.
So it's tempting, but we have the time. So why not go by the book? Well, let's go beyond the book, because again, yes, someone carrying a backpack out and throwing it into a dumpster, someone carrying what appears to be a lifeless body, a child that appears lifeless in a car, that also can work for, oh, the child took drugs. Someone said, oh, she was a known junkie, or some ridiculous statement. But until such time as we have a manner and a cause of death.
Yeah, sometimes I like to bring people that are the voice of reason. I try to be the voice of reason, but I have passion about this case, and I'm bringing to you what I think. And I use common and logic or reason and logic. I'm sorry, common sense, reason and logic. And you know what, Mind of Monsters, you're right. It is going to depend on if the family wants her autopsy report released to the public, and if they want. Especially if Jennifer Soto if they find her culpable in any way, guess what? She has no say-so about that. And then what family is going to be the ones to stand up? Is it going to be the grandma? It's sure not going to be Stephen Stearns' family, because he's not even part of their family. He wasn't even living there, everybody. He was just coming in and sleeping in her room at night and having access to her. So yeah, this is I'd like to know some more of the comments. Let's keep going. Yvette Mancuso, you say, I think the mother ended Maddie's life and Stearns got rid of Maddie's body. There's a possibility there could have been an accident, or maybe she did it on purpose. We don't know yet because she's not talking. But what mother wouldn't talk in this case and be fully cooperating with the police? And that in those interviews are the worst. All right, let's keep listening a little bit. I'll get to
Why blow it?
questions.
Absolutely.
And
Bob, from the chat, this woman, Mayhem and Miracles, I'd like to know why they assume she was passed when they seen her in the car. Can panel give their opinion? Thank you.
Thank you. Me too.
Barbara?
Yeah, I mean, sure, slumped over. I don't. Do they have video of him carrying her?
No, they have video of her in the car, which, and it's also going
Mhm.
through a window. So it must have been incredibly good video. if
That's
they
my
were making
question.
This opinion known that she appeared to be dead at that
Yeah.
point. And this is him coming back into the complex before he drives out to drop the body off. So
Mhm.
Yes, can somebody tell me how that you can see that? That's what I was trying to figure out. I have really good camera footage in my house, around my house, and everywhere that I am, and I can't see the footage that good no matter how the cameras are. So how did they see her that it was her particularly when her and her mom looked really similar? You saw those pictures of her and her mom, especially when she had glasses on, and they look so much alike, everybody. So how did they know? Marianka, I think I'm saying that right. There's a possibility, and until we know, it's just so hard to say. Mind of Monsters, her bio father have they said is Jen found to be a co-offender or found to have guilty knowledge? Yeah, exactly. I think say if Jen has been found. No, we don't know, but we believe that she has guilty knowledge, and you know what guilty knowledge is by the terminology you're using. So yeah, let's see what Carson has to say here. Carson says, if that's true, then she's the worst monster mom. I agree, but there's so many monster moms right now. It's not unbelievable, everybody. There's so many bad ones. I have case after case ready for you to go. And this is I don't know why it's typical nowadays. Now, you're right. A dash cam of an oncoming car could have got good enough footage. You're 100% right, but we don't know yet. And I want to know what you want to know. And Mr. Retired NYPD officer Bill wants to know what you want to know. We all want to know. Let's hear what he has to say.
That's also the thing with this whole case that's really getting people. Well, we have no right to be annoyed, but we are, because we want to know the answers. Is that we don't know everything the police know, and they know a lot. They know a lot of things, and a lot of things, of course, we see on the true crime people. There's a lot of just conspiracy theories, what ifs, what is, shoulda, couldas, and they know the answers. And it's the part of putting the art and the science of investigation together and coming up with good conclusions.
Absolutely. The advances in forensics are extraordinary. DNA and touch DNA and genetic genealogy and the videos that are now everywhere, the cameras, has advanced things by light years. But there is no substitute for good old-fashioned on-the-street investigation. I'm just thinking of that show, the murder.
Okay, so that a break for that. Yeah, we don't care about shows right now. We want to know what's really happening. And Nicola, Belgian, new to your channel, watching from the UK. This is such a dodgy case. Mom definitely knows something. How can she not, especially with the same going on for so long? She is guilty of something. Thank you. I agree. I think 99% of our viewers here agree. I'm going to maybe see comments later in chat that are, or not chat, but just the comments that say different. But right now, nobody's saying that. Yvette, I thought if it was Jen who hurt Maddie from day one, you believed it was the mom. And from mom to mom, I'm thinking the mom has a lot more culpability than people are giving her credit for. I'll say that's not a good thing to say, but she's not getting enough credit, I think, for what she has done here. Yeah, it's a complicated case, and everybody does have good insight here, but we all are on the same page as far as one, we have to wait, and it's gonna come soon, and two, we believe that the mom has a mass culpability in this, and whoever says different, I challenge you to send me why you think so. And we can agree to disagree always. We fast forward this a little bit. I don't want to hear her talk about another whatever. Oh, let's listen to this for a minute, and then I'm going to hop off onto the next. If you guys want to watch the Jen Soto one again with the deceptive detective deception.
She's been very a lot stronger than me.
Let's hear what they say about him. We know he's guilty.
Waves. This is the reality keeps hitting. We don't know where she is. We don't know if she's safe. We're just scared. We just want to.
He was wiping away a non-tear.
Right.
There's no tears, but this is part of his Oscar-winning performance that he's trying to give there.
Two things I notice. One is that he's using the crying voice as if his throat was choked up. That's kind of easy to do, but there's nothing in his eyes. His eyes are not tearing. There's nothing on his eyelashes, because it's hard to make yourself, shed tears, but anybody can make their voice sound like they're crying. Right. So that's number one. Number two, his eyes. When they ask, he looks down, he keeps looking down, and then he says to himself, you got to look up. And he looks off to the side. So his eyes are down, his eyes are off to the side. He's just, look, if anything, God forbid, 1,000 times happened to any kid I know or in my family, I would be screaming into the camera, someone please help us. Right. I would be hysterical. This guy is just making up a little story. She was
Yeah, he's definitely making up a story, and we now know that he's making up a story, but he's making up a story, but why is the mom making up a story with him? Now, Davy Jones, he looks like he smoked a bunch of hashish to make his eyes red. He actually did that morning. It was confirmed that he went, not hashish necessarily, but he went to the vape store. I'm smoking a vape right now, but it's a lot different. It's just nicotine. He went and smoked a bunch of weed, and he was high as hell that morning. That was proven. I'm not speculating here. He went and smoked a bunch of weed, and his eyes were red, and he wasn't really crying. And yes, earlier, Davey, you said deception detective has a a forum, he absolutely does. And I've been talking to him, so don't think I'm just showing his stuff. I respect every single content creator, and I respect him, and he knows that I'm trying to get his views up so he can make more content with us. And he's shouted back out to me. He knows we're using his content, and he loves it, and he loves each and every one of you that has flooded his page. So keep doing that so we can get him to do more videos, okay? Because we're going to do some more videos with him coming up on Monday, everybody. I want you to know that. First interview you saw, Stern's major skin crawl. Well, guess what? We just saw a little bit of him, but our question is Jen Soto. So let's watch a little bit of this. I'm going to put it in a little bit faster speed since he talks slower than I would like to go through this. And if you guys want to watch it, you can, and then we can talk about it too. I'm still taking questions, everybody. So if you please have questions for me, please do, because I want to answer your questions as much as I can. And also, I want to read your comments too. It's important to hear what you have to say. All right.
Members or subscribers of my channel are four members who have a bunch of great comments about this case, would be onto them, would post their case in the forum, and we would expose them. Unfortunately, it's too late for Madeline Soto. What does Jennifer Soto know about the murder of her daughter, Madeline Soto? I'm Deception Detective. I'm an attorney trained in statement analysis, and this channel exists to expose lies and manipulation.
And we did this in the last video, but I figure since we're only at an hour, we can go through this real quick. You guys can see what we're talking about, and let's expose her even more. Please share this. Go to his page. He okayed this, everybody. He okayed this. Carly saw it. He's good. He wants us to do this. So let's go. I might fast forward through some parts, but keep asking questions. I want to answer them.
In today's video, we'll analyze an interview Jennifer Soto did with WFTV shortly after she reported her daughter missing to determine if she had guilty knowledge. If you're not familiar with this case, here's a quick summary. Madeline was reported missing on February 26, 2024 by her mother and her mother's boyfriend, Steven Stearns. A few days later,
all right,
detectives found photos of Steve.
We know this. Let's just go real quick into the video.
On TV right now. This is their one opportunity to speak to their kid. So while a hoaxer might say, I'm wondering what's happening to my kid, I hope they're okay, someone who actually doesn't know what happened to their kid will take the opportunity to speak to their kid through the TV because they don't know if they're watching or not. Finally, we can expect the parent to ask the community to help, and we can expect them to have some sort of call to action. Like if you see Madeline, call 911 or call this special hotline or go to the special website after calling 911. The other thing to look for briefly is my hoax checklist. So hoaxers, when people who are making up a story are pushing a narrative in these interviews, they do certain things that indicate that they are hoaxing. For example, they're conclusive about what happened. We've seen that in the John Bonet case, Madeleine McCann case, William Turrell case, Summer Wells case. They are vague about the money shot. And in the case of missing child, the money shot is the point in time where the kid went missing. They're very vague about the timeline and the details, usually because that's the part of the story they made up. So they're vague about it. They are reticent about the money shot. So if they get asked a lot of questions about it, they answer in very short answers. In other words, they're not trying to communicate information. They're trying to withhold information. And we see a difference between their displayed emotions and their reported.
And this is what we're talking about with Jennifer Soto. So I'm going to just fast forward a little more because we heard this. He's given us a breakdown on what people do. So his hoax checklist is conclusiveness, vagueness, which is the money shot. Now, the money shot in this case is after the party and between 7:30 a.m. Okay. Retinence is also the money shot, and displayed versus reported emotions. And she has like none of these. There's no conclusiveness. She's very vague. Her reticence of the time is not clear, and she has no emotions. All right, let's listen.
Vague question. We should pay attention to everything she says very closely because she's telling us what's on her mind when she thinks about her missing daughter. Remember, at this point, nobody knew what happened to Madeline. The body had not been recovered. Steven Stearns had not been arrested. The first thing Jennifer says is, I feel like I can't breathe. So when she's prompted to speak about her daughter, she talks about not being able to breathe. She seems to be breathing just fine. In fact, she seems to be shaking and hyperventilating. So she's actually breathing a little bit too well. Why talk about not breathing? I'm sure that when the autopsy report is revealed, that they killed Madeline either by strangling her or suffocating her or covering her mouth and her nose to pass her out and then doing something else to her. In other words, when she thinks about Madeline, she thinks about breathing, probably because she's recalling something about restricting Madeline's airway. Could I be totally off? Of course, right? Leakage is cumulative. This is the first instance we've seen of her talking about breathing. I'm just noting it. If she brings it up again and again, then we can put some more chips on the cause of death. Let's keep listening.
All I keep thinking about is, where is she? Is she safe? Is she okay? But we're all a wreck. My entire family's a mess.
My entire family's a mess. I believe her. When people are under stress, that's when you can expect them to leak the truth. Which is why in my deception deck, in my card about eliciting statements from uncooperative witnesses, I give 4 ways to increase their cognitive load. One of which is to have them repeat the events in reverse. All right, so the more stress you can put on somebody, the more likely they're going to leak true information. She's clearly stressed here, or at least she's doing a good job of acting like someone who's stressed and nervous by shaking and telling us that she feels that way. So when she said,
Except she's stressed and nervous for a different reason, I believe, and that's because she's going to get caught. She knows that this happened very sloppy, and she didn't expect it to get as much media attention. She's not doing anything. Everybody else is, and you're going to hear that. I know you've seen this video probably 100 times like I have. If not, it doesn't matter. Watch this and pay attention. You're going to pick up on new things that you haven't. She's nervous as hell.
As her family is a mess, I believe her. And as we've seen in the recent developments in the investigation, the family was in fact a mess. There seems to have been abuse, pedophilia, and even violence leading up to murder, right? So a gradual escalation of depravity.
We're just so worried.
When did you first realize, or when did you file a missing report?
We filed a missing report.
It's also interesting that she says, we are just so worried. Just is a minimizing word. So when she says we are just so worried, it indicates to us that she's probably feeling a lot more than that, a lot more than just worry. Maybe she's nervous that she might get caught.
Scared.
Right. So instead of the worry about her daughter being missing, she might be downplaying the emotions she feels about getting caught for murdering her daughter, or helping plan the murder of her daughter, or being an accessory to the murder of her daughter. At this point, we don't know what her involvement is. This is my first time watching this interview. However, it is the trending topic in the DD forum. So I have read some of the analysis done by members of the channel like Jet Fuel Jenny, Sophia Brayland.
And we've heard all of that too. So let's listen to more.
It's like their story. If you drop your kid off for them to walk a block down to school, you don't know when they went missing. So the fact that she's saying conclusively she went missing at this particular time, instead of saying something like the last time I saw her was at this time, is a slight indication that she's being conclusive, that she might be pushing a narrative. And as you'll recall from my intro, conclusiveness is one of the checks, one of the signs of a hoax. So telling us when she went missing is a red flag. Telling us the last time she saw Madeline would be the correct way to phrase this.
We had dropped her off close to the school. She wanted to walk the rest of the way.
All right, everybody, that is not a parrot. It's an animal feeder, and you can hear it dispensing the food. And Stephen Stern's voice probably is making that because he was doing a lot of things, kids with little gotcha toys and paintings and stuff. So I don't know whose voice it is, but it's not a parrot. Let's get that out of the way and watch her ugly smirk on her face. I'm completely convinced that she is just as culpable for what was going on. So sorry, but sorry, not sorry.
She wanted to walk the rest of the way. What is that? It's a slight victim blaming. Think about if this mother dropped her daughter off a block from school and her daughter was kidnapped in that short walk. She would be kicking herself. I let her walk. I shouldn't have done that. I should have taken her straight up to the door of the school and watched her walk in. Not blaming the daughter. Well, she wanted to walk there, and look what happened. When your kid goes missing, your kid can do no wrong. You miss them, you feel bad, you're kicking yourself as a parent for letting anything happen to them. We saw a similar thing in the Summer Wells case, which I've also done a series on, where the parents say, well, Summer liked to play outside and that was her downfall. That's victim blaming. The actual parent of a missing child kicks themselves.
And she actually victim blames a lot. You're going to see that now. I'm still answering questions, everybody. So get them in there. LH524 Fire. Who brought her home from the party? Probably Stephen Stearns. I'm going to say that he had a lot of gloves on her, so to speak. He had his hands on her all the time, access all the time. The grandma wasn't doing it, that's for sure. The grandma was just out there doing her thing. Stephen Stearns had access to her all the time for many years. And you say, would love to know when she called Stephen Stearns to take her home or take her to school. I would too, because she said she slept in late. When did she call and how did she know she was sleeping in late? I don't understand. And did she not see Maddie after the party? I think the mom did it that night and called them to help clean it up and came up with a story. There's a possibility, but Stephen Stearns isn't going to talk. But you know who will talk? If they back her into the corner? Jennifer Soto. Take a listen.
Why did I let her play outside unsupervised? Why didn't I make sure I was watching her? I knew she liked to play outside. I didn't put up a camera. I didn't put up a Ring doorbell. I didn't make sure that she had a dog with her or that grandma was watching her. These are the comments of actual innocent parents, like the mother of Michael Monkey Vaughn, who I've done a little bit of analysis on in other videos. Also, if you're watching this video, you'll notice that Jennifer Soto is smirking and smiling because I think like a parrot or a toy is making noise in the background. That is bizarre. I will admit also that her shaking nervously is bizarre. I've seen Pat Brown comment about the nervous shaking and saying it's the first time she's ever seen it. If you know my channel, you followed me for a while, I don't analyze body language. I try.
Now, I'm going to answer you, Ema, or I'm amused. You say, seriously, how many have lost a child that made them an expert on how a parent should or should not act? Lots of people in this community have lost a child, and I've talked to them personally. Lots of these people that are detectives and lots of people that are in the case have lost a child and seen children lost. So this is not the first interview that we're talking about where it just happened to be that way. And it's not day one where it just happened to be that he was pedophiling her. Okay, there were 400 videos that they found on his phone over the last 2 years of him brutally assaulting her sexually. So when you say that, I'm not a parent that's lost a child, but I do know how I would act, and I wouldn't be victim blaming and making excuses for this man that she gave access to. So I'll agree to disagree with you, and we still love you in the community, and I love getting the feedback like that, and keep it coming. Challenge me.
Try to ignore it. I'm just pointing it out so you know I also see it. I'm not factoring it into my analysis. I don't think this is, for example, Duper's Delight. People do bizarre things when they're actually distressed. So the shaking, the mother of a missing child who feels bad about being negligent and letting her daughter get kidnapped while dropping her off at school could be shaking just as nervously as a mother who helped plan the murder of her daughter and is scared of getting caught. Right? So we can't read too much into the body language, and it can be dangerous and misleading to do so. It's much better to focus on the words because people pick their words out of a dictionary of around 30,000 words for the average English speaker. So there's only a certain number of movements.
And I'm going to have to stop and say I'm amused. I agree with you 110%. And I'm sorry if people looked at you in that way and judged you when your child went missing. And nobody should have done that to you. And I agree. I'm sorry that happened. And I know you didn't know how to act. And many times people get falsely accused. Now, on this one, they have more evidence, and the police are dropping hints that they do. I hope they're not wrong. I've said from the beginning, if I'm wrong, I will personally apologize to Jennifer Soto. But she is culpable for giving that pedophile access to her child for 6 years in many situations where she was half naked and letting him sleep in her bed. Nobody should do that as a mother. So that's a different situation, but I'm sorry that happened to you. I really, truly am. Nobody should go through that.
I can do with my hands and my eyes. I have tens of thousands of words to choose from, which is why the ones that people pick are much more telling than where their eyes are looking or, whether or not they're shuffling their feet.
That should be it. Sorry about that. We dropped her off at school, close to school. She wanted to walk the rest of the way.
Actually, I'm glad we have that interruption. So one of the things I always point out in my videos where I believe the parents are responsible for what happened to their kid is I point out scripting, where it looks like the parents sat down ahead of time and came up with their story so that they could recite it to the police, to the news, and stay on the same page. It typically happens with co-conspirators, like the McCanns, in my opinion, are Candace and Don Wells, or John and Patsy Ramsey. When there's two people, the chances of their story getting exposed as a lie goes up by a factor of 1,000, right? It's much easier if you can lie alone, you say you're the only person there, and then the only way to screw up is if you contradict yourself in future interviews. When there's two people involved now you have to corroborate your story with each other in the present across interviews over time between each other. So typically what criminals do when there's two or more of them is they craft their story, they script it out ahead of time so they can recite it perfectly.
You know what? I also want to add to this. Mind of Monsters, you say the abuse started when Maddie was 8. There's no way Jen didn't know there would be physical damage. That would be obvious that she was being tortured. And I don't want to get too graphic, but I agree with you. I have my beautiful children. I have 2 of them, and I always help them to be sanitary at that age. And I always had to clean them and make sure they're bathed and check their parts and make sure they'd come home and, they hit themselves on the slide or whatever. And I took them to the doctor, and the doctor checked their parts as well. There would be physical damage to her parts down there, everybody. If you read the PCA and what he was doing to her, there would have been really stuff wrong to her behind, her vaginal area, and all of that. So I agree with Mind of Monsters, and that's all I'm going to say. I don't want to get too graphic, but that makes me so angry.
And one of the indicators of a scripted story is that they recount it verbatim every time they tell it. And you can see this with Kate McCann when she talks about going into the room to find Madeline. Across years, her story has remained virtually unchanged, word for word. So let's listen here. Let's see if Jennifer Soto, before that interruption, said exactly what she just said now, right? Because if they did do something to their daughter, and the story of dropping her off is a cooked up alibi, which we know it is now, we can expect them to have scripted that story beforehand, and she should tell it the exact same way both times, before the interruption by the parrot or the toy, and after. All right, so here's the first time she says it.
We had dropped her off close to the school. She wanted to walk the rest of the way. Sorry.
All right, we had dropped her off close to the school. She wanted to walk the rest of the way. First of all, notice how vague that is. If the last time you saw your daughter was 2 blocks from the school near a park bench or 3 blocks away near a bus stop, you would be telling us that. Because any little detail could lead to catching the person who took your daughter. So, like any scripted story, it's vague so that they're not pinned down to details. So that if the police say, there's actually a camera near that bus stop, they're not pinned down to that. And they can say, well, then we dropped her a block closer. So scripted stories are typically vague. All right, so let's see.
And you know what? Maybe at this point she didn't know. Let's give her the benefit of the doubt. She still told the story with Stefan Stearns. Their stories in that interview, they kept saying we and they. She was telling us what he told her because he dropped her off. Let's say she wasn't there at all. She's telling the story of what he told her. And either way, she's not doing any justice for Maddie. And she hadn't ever. Look at that. The sheets, the clothing, all of the above. I see all of that on my kids. I always have. And I pay attention. What was she doing?
If the second time she says it after this little interruption, it's exactly the same as the first time. We dropped her off close to the school. She wanted to walk the rest of the way.
We dropped her off at school, close to school. She wanted to walk the rest of the way.
Wow. Word for word. In fact, she said we dropped her off at school and then corrected herself to say close to school. That's a great indication that this story is scripted. I've not seen later. Steven Stearns gives an interview. I wonder if he will say the exact same thing.
And he does say the same thing, and that's why she kept getting tripped up with the we and the they. And it's ironic that he cried more than she did, but it's not that ironic because you know why? In that interview, now I want to punch him in the face because he's saying, I love that girl. And she was like, the things he was saying about her, we now know was in a sexual manner. So he was crying because he lost his play toy, essentially. In the affidavit, it tells you all the stuff that he was doing, and he lost that one thing that he had that was his pleasure, that he was just using her for his pleasure and taking pictures of it. So in hindsight, we now know what dirty, nasty, disgusting things that she was meant for him.
And if he does, we can stack up a lot of chips on our bet that this story is scripted. And if it is scripted, that tells us that she helped plan the murder, or at least help cover it up, and was basically on board with the cover up at the very least, on board with what they would tell police and the news about it. And it's very telling that she said we dropped her off at school and then went back to correct herself to say close to school. Word for word.
I'm not sure what I'm allowed to share.
You share whatever you feel comfortable sharing. I know you had conversations with detectives.
So that might be all they scripted, right? So you're going to say, so what we're going to say is we dropped her off close to the school. She wanted to walk the rest of the way. It's not our fault. We didn't do anything wrong. And we're just going to leave it at that. And that's why after she gives her little word for word spiel, she says she's not sure what to say next. If your daughter is missing, you say anything you can. And we have great examples of this. If you've seen my video,
If you see any of the videos, and we can do that, I'm going to do a deception detective collaboration. I'm going to put a file together. We're just going to do a playlist of that so you could see the people that he's talking about and what the difference is between somebody that's lying and someone that's fabricating a story. What do you mean? What are you sure? You're not sure what you can say. Say I'm Madeline Soto, my 13-year-old daughter that just turned that yesterday, and she had a birthday and all of her friends were here and she's gone missing and she never does that and she didn't have her phone. You don't say excuses about why she didn't have her phone and what she did wrong and how the we and they, like, that's, I'm sorry, but there's just too much on this. If the abuse hadn't been going on so long, I might not roast her like this, but I feel different.
do innocent parents sound like? Where we looked at the biological mother of Gannon Stouch, who was kidnapped and murdered by his stepmother.
Stouch.
She did not ask the police, what can I say? Can I say this or that? She said anything she needed to say.
Exactly.
Anything that might help her find her son. Same with Michael Monkey Vaughn. I looked at her interview with the interview room briefly in my last Summer Wells video at the end, and she admits even embarrassing things about her home life in order to help find her son, to put any information she can out there. So the fact that Jennifer seems like she's giving a scripted story of what happened that day and is now being reticent regarding the money shot, which is another one of the 4 things on my hoaxer checklist, is not a good sign.
Not sure what that conversation is, but whichever you feel comfortable sharing, that we'll put the awareness out there.
Yeah, she was spotted walking by the church, by the middle school on the cameras. They saw her hang out in the parking lot for a little bit and then get up and leave. They didn't see a vehicle or anything else.
By the way, somebody asked this question earlier. I'm sorry I can't find it, but that wasn't her on there. And she's here. She's saying they. She must have talked to the police. There was another interview before on a Spanish station in a parking lot at night when it was dark. It was the night before. Now, remember, this is 24 hours later, and they're already giving up hope. There's nothing we could do, they're saying. So before that was when this was going on and whatever story they came up with. So 24 hours later, and we already lost hope. We feel her gone already. Unless you know, you don't know that.
They just saw her walk away around 9 a.m. heading towards the school, but she never made it.
What has the school said? Have you been in contact with the school?
Yes, that they're doing everything they can. They've given me all their resources. The principals called me. They've looked at their cameras. I I don't think they've caught anything on the cameras. It's too far away from the sidewalk. Everything is too grainy, so they can't see specific faces. But they've looked. I'm just waiting to hear anything else from them.
Is this normal?
So one thing you'll notice here is the reticence, where everything she says has to be prompted by the interviewer. Whereas actual parents of missing children, you can expect them to at least address a kidnapper, address the child, ask for help, provide a call to action. All of these things do not have to be prompted. The parents just do them because that's the entire point of the interview. When the parent of a missing child goes onto TV or onto a talk show or speaks to the press, and it feels like you're pulling teeth trying to get information from them, you need to ask yourself, why are they being so reticent? It doesn't always mean they're guilty, right? It doesn't mean that they killed their kid. They might be being reticent because they were stoned at the time their kid was actually kidnapped and they're embarrassed about it. Or they're negligent and they don't want to admit that they were, passed out drunk, or that they let a child abuser live with them. So they're being reticent because they know more than they want to say, and they're ashamed of their contribution to the kidnapping, even if they didn't help plan it, or even if it was a legitimate kidnapping.
All right. So on that note, I'm actually going to, I really just wanted to make sure that everybody knew here. Let me see if I can. Okay. So I really wanted today to bring awareness, answer questions. I had 500 questions from the last 2 videos, and I couldn't sit there and type and answer all of them. So I think I gave you enough evidence from my perspective and from others' perspective to see what I'm saying. I said, Jen Soto, more questions answered today in live chat. I think I've done my part in answering them. You've definitely done your part in supporting me, and I appreciate each and every one of you so much. So much for being here, so much for being in the chat, so much for all the super chats. Remember, I just got monetized, everybody, and it was all because of you and everybody watching and sharing. Now, that was the Deception Detective, and we're already in the works of doing more videos as long as we can get them up. I have another video coming on Monday with him, and we're going to do a roast, and you can see that on my page. But yeah, I just wanted to give you the opportunity as my crime crew and the community here to thank you. Thank you, the bishop. I appreciate you as well. And thank you so much, Carly, and everybody that send me super stickers. We have super stickers, super chats. You can join the crime crew official now and be an official crime crew and get the icons, the emojis. I'm sorry, you can have special emojis, and we're gonna have lives like this. We're gonna have secret lives, everybody. So we're gonna have a secret behind the scene live and personal talk with me. I'll answer questions, but I wanted to give you an idea of what what we're about, what we're doing, and I will not tolerate negativity against anybody on the chat. I won't tolerate negativity against me, especially if you're just coming to insult how I look or how I talk or what you don't like about me. If it's my content, you can be constructively a critic, but please don't come at me with some crazy stuff because I won't even listen to you. So, everybody, it has been a pleasure. Happy Easter. I have my daughter. We've had a beautiful day today. I wanted to bring the awareness, and I also wanted you to know that I'm here for you and the community, and that I'm going to answer your questions. And I couldn't answer 500 of them. Even now, I can't answer 500 of them. But if you guys would please do me a favor and hit that like button, subscribe, and the all notifications bell so you could keep getting these. I'm going to be back again tomorrow, and I'm going to do a midday roast. Okay, so please come join me and let's get these people exposed, and let's do all the things that a community does. You're all my crime crew, and happy Easter to everybody. It's a beautiful Sunday. It's time for family, and let's get rid of all this. Let's say a prayer for Madeline Soto and her family, and just love each other, everybody love each other and boost each other up, because that's what it's about. Okay, that's what it's about here. So yes, a midday roast. We're going to do a midday roast, but we're also going to love each other and our family and respect each other and agree to disagree. So I love every single one of you, and I will see you back tomorrow, I hope. Please come back, hit the like notification, and subscribe to all. And on that note, happy Easter. I'm out of here.
Guilty of crime.
I want to thank you for watching. If you enjoyed my content, please share this video, like, and subscribe. You can also follow me over at Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, X, or Gmail. If you'd like to donate to my channel, you can use Cash App or Venmo or PayPal. Thank you very much in advance. Guilty of crime.
Are you guilty?